Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Good for the Soul. This is episode number 27. In this episode, I sat down with my friend, Greg Lapin. He's the owner-operator of Vida Jiu Jitsu down in Mandeville, Louisiana. Greg and I met, I think only about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now, through a program called Guns and Gis that him, Greg Anderson, and Joao Assis founded together. And it was an awesome program where you have some jiu-jitsu in the afternoon, you do shooting, pistol shooting in the morning, and combine all those together in the community aspect of the whole weekend with a bunch of new people learning and training and getting to know one another was incredible. And Greg is one of those guys where him and I hit it off right away. I've been down to Louisiana about 3 or 4 times now. I was there for his black belt promotion, which was super exciting, and I would consider him a good friend of mine at this point. He's got an awesome academy. I truly love going down and visiting and hanging out with everyone there. He's a great guy, got a great team around him, and he's lived an interesting life. So it's super fun to sit down with him and be a part of Good for the Soul and learn more about the specifics of his journey through jiu-jitsu, the ups and downs and things he's been through. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. Before we get to that, I just want to remind you guys to go to originusa.com, check out their jiu-jitsu gear, but they also have the jeans, the boots, the rash guards, the gis, the things that you're going to use everyday lifestyle and also your jiu-jitsu needs, right? They got the best gis in my opinion. So go check them out. It's awesome. At checkout, use the code Good for the Soul. That's how you're going to get yourself 10% off and help support the podcast as well. On top of that, go to jockofuel.com, supplements, protein shakes, your everyday greens, anything you need to keep your body functioning properly. I get the jiu-jitsu hands. I think officially after this year of traveling and training, I have those fingers where I need to tape them up all the time. They got the aches, right? That joint warfare is one of my favorite supplements out there. Take that 3 or 4 days and those aches and pains start to dwindle. It's one of my favorite supplements. And if you've been training for a long time, So go to jockofuel.com, check it out. At checkout, put in Good for the Soul, all spelled out, all one word. It gets yourself 10% off. Guys, without further ado, we're going to jump into episode number 27 of Good for the Soul with my friend, Greg Lapin. Get them all fucking synced up, ready to go. Brother, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me out of your busy schedule with everything you have going on. Dude, we're just talking jiu-jitsu, the thing that we love a lot. That's how we met.
That we've been doing all week.
Yep.
And we're going to do tonight.
Yes, sir. And we'll get into how we met for the people listening. Yeah. But man, talk to me about your story, because I think of all people who do jiu-jitsu, you have one of the most unique stories and inspiring stories. So where did you first hear the word jiu-jitsu?
So it's funny. I lived in California as a kid for about 5 years. Obviously, Southern California, outside Los Angeles, like the groundbreaking area for jiu-jitsu in the U.S. Knew nothing of jiu-jitsu. I grew up playing ice hockey. I played ice hockey in SoCal. And one of the kids that I was really good friends with on the team, his dad was a Golden Gloves boxer, so we would box on the weekends and stuff. His dad would teach us how to box. Never heard of jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Fast forward several years, I fly back to California. I moved back to New Jersey. I fly back to California just to visit my friend. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, come with us. My brother and I need to go to jiu-jitsu practice. And I was like, what's jiu-jitsu? I don't know. And they're wearing these like white karate uniforms with these long belts. I think they were like orange or yellow at the time, these long goofy belts. Yep. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I go with them and I walk into this little building with these green mats all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I walk in, I sit down, and I meet this dude who he walked in. He was their coach. I didn't know what a professor was at that time. Yeah. He was wearing a goofy white gi and had a big black eye and just looked like kind of a gawky dude. Didn't look tough or anything. I was a kid still. Yeah. And I was probably 12 or 13. And, hey, how you doing? I'm Hoist. And it was Hoist Gracie, right? Shit. My buddies were training at the original Torrance Gracie Academy under Hoist. So I spend a few more days with them there. I fly back to New Jersey. I go back to school. Never heard anything of jiu-jitsu again. 2005, I'm a New Orleans policeman, chasing bad guys every night, working for a street crime unit. And like I said, I know how to throw hands. I fought a lot growing up, but I knew how to box and fight. I was just tough. Yeah. But I knew nothing about grappling. I was like, I need to learn how to like control dudes. I need to learn how to grapple. So I went to a local jiu-jitsu academy in the city, and started training. And like most people, you know, what do you know as a brand new white belt? I was young, strong, athletic.
Yep.
You don't wear pajamas on the street. Why am I going to train in this fucking stupid thing, you know?
Right.
So I did mostly no-gi, real sporadically, but I would literally train in the afternoons and then be out on the street that night trying whatever I learned. Like deliberately trying to try whatever I learned in the gym that day, that night against the bad guy.
Wow, legit.
So it was like trial by fire. And it was like, you know, I'd be doing something and trying to, you know, get a kimura on someone and boom, get punched in the face and, I did that wrong, and just start beating someone, right?
For sure. Well, so if you were doing, which we've talked about before, ice hockey and you boxed as a kid, comparatively, a lot of people who walk in the gym for the first time, and I would say most people have never done any combat sport, or nervous feeling. It sounds like, or was there a moment for you when you had to get over that nervousness fighting as a kid or boxing? But it sounds like it may have come more natural to you. So maybe expand on your experience, and then jumping forward timeline, how you coach people through that day one on the mat kind of feel.
Yeah. So initially, I'd say no. Initially, I was young, aggressive, like for real fighting people every night, just about. You know, in New Orleans, I worked in the worst area. Yep. I worked in a plainclothes street crime unit at the time. I mean, literally, like, I was in car chases and foot chases and fights and shootings, like, all the time.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that sort of hesitation. Like, this was a sport.
Right.
You know, like, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew I was tough. Fast forward a little bit, I left the department. I went to go work for the U.S. government, and then I wasn't training regularly anymore. I trained sporadically on deployments. There was always some jiu-jitsu guy on the team, and we would train whether it was out in the dirt field or in mats in the, whatever gym was there, wherever we were stationed. But it's super, super sporadic. So I tell people I was like a 10-year white belt. Like, I wore a white belt for almost 10 years. And then fast forward, I took a job in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, in 2013. And they import Brazilian black belts to teach jiu-jitsu. And I became friends with one of them in the gym that we worked out in, that we lifted in. I was like, man, I want to start doing that again. So I asked him, hey, can I start training with you guys again? Yeah, Greggy, come on, bro. Let's go. Let's Thiago. That's when the fear hit me again, bro.
Really?
Dude.
Interesting.
You know, here I'm a white belt again.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm tough. I'm physically fit. I'm athletic. But so are all these motherfuckers. And these guys were killers. They're all black belts, multiple degree black belts. And I walk in a room, and it was me and two other guys that I worked with, brand new white belts. And there's like 3, 4, 5, 6 black belts, all fucking cauliflowered up. Like, I'm like, dude, what did I get myself into? And they trained hard.
Yeah.
And I got smashed. Every fucking day I got smashed bad. And literally, like, I tell my white belts in here, like, for almost the first year, I would dread driving to practice every day, to the point where I'd be in traffic, like, maybe if I get in a little fender bender, maybe if someone hits me, then I don't have to go to training. Yeah. Like, it was that bad. I'd be like, that next intersection, I'm going to turn left. I'm going to turn and go somewhere else, and I drive past it and keep going. Next one, I'm going to turn around, drive past it. Fuck it, I got to go. And eventually you get over that.
Yes.
And then eventually you literally learn to embrace and love the beating, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's totally wild. It's so relatable too through MMA practices, right? Where you're sitting outside in your car, like, maybe I should just start and go home. Like, I don't need to go in tonight. But eventually you get through it.
The garage, I sat in my truck for like 20 minutes before I went down to the garage the very first night.
Yeah, you know, so. Totally. So what was, once you started training with Thiago?
Yeah,
Thiago. You're white belt for a long time. What did it mean to you to get your blue belt, or how did that actually happen? You know, because a lot of time off the mat, you know.
Yeah. So it was cool. So, you know, I was a white belt, and though I was training real sporadically, I was training for a long time, you know, sporadically, but you get a really good base and foundation. Like, I knew how to move my hips. I knew posture and head position and just very, very basic fundamental grappling. If you asked me to do an arm bar from guard, I'd be like, I don't know how to do that. But, like, I understood the positioning, body positioning. And so I got my blue belt in 1 year to the month that I started training with Thiago. And it was actually a surprise because I had already trained at regular training that day. And I had a full mat room in my house in Abu Dhabi that I rented. And so I had already trained that day at training, at practice. And it was like the evening time, and we were cooking dinner, and I actually had already had one whiskey. And Thiago and this other guy that we trained with, Daniel Vieira, They show up at my door with their gis. Hey, Greggy, come on, man. We're going to train now, bro. I'm like, okay. Well, Casey was in on it, right? She was in on it. So he comes over and one of my training partners comes over. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. Let's train again. Cool. And they beat the brakes off of me. Fucking beat the brakes off of me. Like, I'm like, this wasn't even training, dude. Like, him and Daniel just like fucking
just
playing
in your garage, just you three. No one else is there.
In a giant living room in my house.
Oh, and they just came in your house and are beating the shit out of you on the mats.
Beating the shit out of me, dude.
What's going through your head right at that moment?
I'm like, fuck, I'm like, damn, did I do something? Like, did I do something wrong?
I've not heard this before.
Did I fuck up? Like, what, like, okay, the world's speaking to me. I get it. I don't know what I get, but I get it.
Yeah.
And we finished training, and he gives me my blue belt. You know? And literally, like, I started fucking going to tears, man. Like, I was like, wait a second, I'm a grown-ass man. I've fucking been to war. Like, why am I crying over a belt? Like, this is dumb. But he gave me my blue belt, and I pass this down. And when Thiago was here a couple months ago, it brought him to tears. So I passed this down to my students. And he's taking my white belt off, and he's tying my blue belt on around my waist. And I'm like, man, Thiago, no, bro. Like, I'm not ready for this, dude. I'm not a blue belt. And he literally, this is his pep talk. He goes, poor Greggy, you don't know shit, bro. Right? I know shit, okay? You blue belt, right? And that's the truth, though. And like I tell my students that, like, you're telling a black belt, someone who's been doing this longer than a decade, that they don't know where your skill level is at. You know it better, right? It's like a slap in the face. So, dude, I literally, whenever my students say something like that, I give them the Thiago speech in his accent and everything, right? And then it lightens the mood. I'm like, but seriously, like, you don't know shit. Yeah. I do. So here's your new promotion. Here's your degree, whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So that's how I got my blue belt.
That's super rad. Kind of on that note, when, you know, being a white belt, you're so excited, you know. I think regardless of when people say, hey, don't think about the belt, but when you're a fucking white belt, you're thinking about, you want to get that next step. You want that blue belt, and then eventually purple belt, right? How do you manage students coming to you either asking about how belt systems work, or have you had students ask you, hey, when am I getting blue belt? Like, what is that phase for those people like, you know, approaching the belt system?
Yeah, I think we do a pretty good job here of not emphasizing the belt. Mm-hmm. You'll spend 2 years with me as a white belt here. Like, I don't hand out degrees. I don't do special stripes. I don't do different color stripes. I don't do different colored belts before the blue belt. I don't do any of this, like, for adults. Yeah. You know, kids obviously have the colored belting system, the IBJJF system that I follow. But even them, like, they'll wait 8 months to a year to go from a gray and white to a gray, and then a gray to a gray and black. Like, I treat them more like adults. So I really don't emphasize ranking here. You can train in all of the classes at any rank. So it's not like if you're a white belt, you're limited to certain classes. When you're brand new, you have to train a month before you can come to the 201 advanced curriculum classes. But I don't emphasize the belt. Stripes come very, very slowly. I reiterate that after classes when we line it up. And I always emphasize it when we have visitors come. My guys kill them. When I have guys go travel and visit other gyms, typically my guys kill them. And I'm like, you know, oh man, I rolled with a bunch of blue belts and I murdered them. I'm like, cool. That's the standard. That's the difference. You're not a blue belt yet, but that's the standard of grappling, right? Do you want to be a blue belt there and get the shit kicked out of you, or would you rather be a white belt with 3 or 4 stripes and be beating the blue belts? So I kind of set that standard in our culture in the gym, like from the get-go. And I haven't really had anyone ever ask me about a promotion. You know, I've heard little quips and stuff behind the scenes, behind the curtain.
No one who's confident enough to come to you like, when am I going to get my blue belt?
Oh, yeah, no. I'll tell them, hey, you know the other gym down the street? You can go sign up over there and get your blue belt. How about that? Yeah. You know, like, but also I think it goes down to, like, I'm very upfront with all my students. I mean, you know me, bro. Yeah, like, I'm brutally honest. Yep. And I tell them, you may not always hear what you want to hear from me, but you'll never have to question whether it's the truth. Right. And so I'm very honest with my students. So I think that builds a trust in me, that they trust me enough to know that when it's time, when they're ready, they're going to get promoted. And it may not even relate to just skill. It may relate to emotional maturity on the mat as well. Like, I'm not looking at just skill. I'm looking at your maturity level, your ability to listen, your ability to teach, your ability to be a good teammate.
Yep.
So it's,
Definitely.
you know, the deal. It's like a whole encompassing. I live the jiu-jitsu lifestyle. I don't come here and put the gi on and train and leave. Like, I live jiu-jitsu all day long, every day, and that's what I want my students to do, and it's got to be a lifestyle.
For sure. The life of Lapin, man. Been living it the
That's
last week.
it, bro. Yeah.
For sure. For you specifically, was white belt, blue belt, brown belt, and currently now black belt, was there a phase that was the toughest for you during your years of training?
Phew, man. Purple belt was hard.
Yeah.
Purple belt was hard. Blue belt was cool because I came from a really, really high standard blue belt. And I trained with Thiago as a blue belt for about another 2 years. And when I moved back here stateside, there was only one other gym in the area. And I was murking dudes.
Yeah.
Like a rank to 2 ranks higher than me as that blue belt. Now, I was also very athletic, very aggressive, very strong. But my jiu-jitsu was good for blue belt level.
Yeah.
And then I decided to open up the academy. I met and became very good friends and brought in Jeremy Humphreys, who was a 3rd degree black belt. Actually, at the time we met, he was a 2nd degree, and he picked up his 3rd degree shortly after we opened the academy. And this dude was on another level. This dude was like the first dude that I met that was like, I was back in the garage with like murders. This dude was on another level. And he was gritty. He was a wrestler. He was an MMA fighter, and bro, he was just gritty. And he gave me that grind, that push, that pressure. And he actually promoted me to purple after about 2 months of opening the academy. Because like I said, I was a pretty good blue belt already.
Yeah.
So he gave me my purple belt, and I got my purple belt, and I was like, ooh, fuck, I need to learn jiu-jitsu now, you know? Like, I literally was like, I was good at like 2 things, and I could beat a lot of guys with those 2 things, you know? And I was like, yeah, I don't know spider guard, I don't know lasso guard, I don't know De La Hiva. So my purple belt was like really me diving into all this stuff that I wasn't good at and trying to learn. And you know, when you're trying to learn something, you get smashed.
Right.
You
try to really implement it. You're like, oh, that didn't work.
So let me go back to my go-to, right?
Yeah.
I really forced myself to not do that. I forced myself to not go back to my go-to and just try to win. I forced myself to try to learn. And then purple belt, I had a couple injuries. I tore my LCL and MCL. I had to have like emergency surgery on my wrist. So I had a couple of injuries through my purple belt that kind of slowed me down. I shouldn't even say it slowed me down. Honestly, it didn't slow me down. I trained through them. Yeah. I didn't wrestle. When I tore my LCL, I didn't wrestle anymore. I didn't do any stand-up.
Right.
I put a knee brace on under my gi. I played guard all to my offside.
Yep.
And if they were trying to pass on my bad knee side, I just let them pass and I learned to recover.
Yep.
The best progression was after surgery on my wrist. I had to train for a couple of months with like my wrist in a sling. And dude, that's when my feet got really good. You know,
just
like
learn how to grip with the toes.
Yeah.
Sticky
you know,
feet.
That's it. Sticky feet, monkey feet. So like I try to use my injuries as a catalyst for my jiu-jitsu. And I started competing heavily at purple belt, doing pretty well, winning IBJJF Opens. I don't think I did any of the big tournaments that year, like Worlds and Pans and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we fucking trained hard all through like the COVID bullshit.
Yep.
And we didn't stop training. And my training partners were killers. And I went down a worm guard rabbit hole. And all of a sudden, Jeremy couldn't pass my guard anymore. And I was like, I don't want to say I was sweeping him, but I was almost sweeping him sometimes. And he's like, fuck. He's like, I'm bringing a knife next time. I'm cutting your lapel. And he gave me my brown belt, you know. Cool. So purple belt was hard. Brown belt, I don't know. I had fun at brown belt. It was just kind of like an interim belt. It's like purgatory. You're established, you know. It's
like
purgatory.
You're already a lifer. It's just a matter of when and just continue down the road.
That's right, you know.
But before we get too far down the rabbit hole, talk to me about opening up Vida, because this is the second location we're in right now, I believe.
So this is, we moved locations. So there's only one location, but yes, we were in another building.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So talk to me about that, because one, I think it takes a lot of courage as a blue belt to open a gym. so there's that.
Courage, stupidity, you know.
All mixed into one, depending what angle you're looking at it from.
Yeah.
And then when did you, because I see it after years in the making, right? I came down for an event, and the culture's already
established.
built. And I can see why you were able to get to the culture and gym that you have. But what was that like, and when did you really start getting more people, more students involved? So talking about that.
So it was cool, man. It was scary for sure, but it was cool. So I had moved home from Abu Dhabi. I was working what I would call a corporate job. I was working as the head of close protection for like a multi-billionaire guy here. And I was absolutely miserable. It was not what I wanted to do. And I had always told Casey, and I'd always had in my mind, like, we're going to open up a jiu-jitsu academy one day. Like, Thiago put that love in my heart. Like, So I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I just didn't have the balls to do it. Well, eventually I just got so miserable with work, and it was affecting everything else in my life. I was drinking a ton. I was depressed. And I started training at the local gym here because it was the only option.
Yeah.
And I was not happy there. Now, I met some very good friends there, and those friends and us, we kind of like started our own clique, if you will. But the gym was only open 2 days a week. And it wasn't the culture environment that I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
So I matted my garage. I turned my entire garage, which is small. You've been there. It's a little 2-car garage, but I turned the whole thing into a gym. Matted the whole thing, matted the wall. And then on the off days when we weren't at the actual gym training, we were in my garage training. Well, it started with one guy. Then it started with another buddy. Next thing you know, there's like 9 to a dozen people in my little garage. And there's 4 or 5 of us rolling around the mat, just on top of each other, kicking each other. And people are sitting out and rotating in. And I'm like, this is the gym. This is it. This is now. Now's the time. And so, yeah, I was a blue belt, you know? And I was like, well, I can't open a gym as a blue belt. Like solely, you know, I need a black belt. And it just so happened that Jeremy had just moved back from Australia. He was there for 2 years. He had moved back from Australia, didn't really have a home. He was training at a gym on the South Shore. And I went down there and trained and met him. I was like, hey, bro, how's this sound? Do you want to do this? And he's like, let's give it a try. So he came out and we became really fucking good friends and just hit it off. And his jiu-jitsu is sick, like sick, you know?
Yeah.
And that's it, man. So like day
good
one,
timing if he had just moved
bro,
back and you're ready
that's
to
what
do
I'm
this.
saying. You know, we talked about the universe like
Yeah.
speaking to us, and I think I've gotten like pretty hippie-ish
Yep.
in my older age, you know, like the universe has things set in motion, planned. Sometimes they collide, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you miss those things. I think that is a possibility, but like there's some things just are meant to be.
Yep.
And this was meant to be. So like day one out the gate, I think we had like a dozen students, a dozen members the first day. And then by the end of like 2 months, we had like 20, 30 students. And then it was just growing and growing and growing. And I think it was a combination of my experience in leadership and you know, being a leader, and Jeremy's ability to just set the bar for what jiu-jitsu is and what the standard is, you know, and his knowledge. And very, very, very quickly, we started to be known to like have the best jiu-jitsu around.
So, yeah, for sure. That's one thing I'm curious about too, is how, because to me, this area is a small town. From, you know, compared from where I come from,
for
right?
sure.
So how did jiu-jitsu start to grow here? Because I mean, you got a bunch of students here now, like what, 175-ish, 200 now, right? So you got like, I mean,
we got an army, bro.
Yeah, which is legit. And so, how did that start to grow? Because maybe the culture here, like we talked about the other day while we're driving around, like I wouldn't assume people are like super interested in jiu-jitsu, you know, maybe it's like, I don't know, but how did it start to grow here?
I think it's like any other, I mean, it's really like any other town. This area, although I would say it's middle to upper middle class, is very blue collar.
Okay.
It's a very like blue collar, hard working area. Yeah. So, you know, people want to stay in shape. People want to grind. I think a lot of it for, you know, the majority of our members, I never wanted a school that was like focused on kids or all kids.
Right.
I prefer to have adults in here. The kids program's awesome. We have a great kids program. Yep. But for me, it's more rewarding to get adults in here and get them out of their comfort zone and reinvigorate their life, change their lives. And I think a lot of people just, you know, jiu-jitsu is obviously getting a little more mainstream, more popular, people watching UFC, etc.
Gotcha.
And I think people just search for that tribe. We've talked about it
Yeah.
at Guns and Geese and stuff. I think people need that tribe. I think adults need that tribe. They've lost their way. They are their job now, or they're just dad, or just, they're just like a paycheck coming home. It's like, and we change that
For sure.
This changed. Jiu-Jitsu changes that.
Yeah. No, totally. One of the biggest things we see, and I'm sure you see as an instructor, hey, we get them through the door, they're training for a while, but at some point, people leave the mats, right? What is the biggest reason or theme that you're seeing that early stage when people leave the mats, the why, and how can we keep people on the mats for longer?
First, I don't think that there's anything that we can ever do to not make people quit jiu-jitsu. First and foremost, without really seriously watering down jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
This is one of the hardest things I think you can ever do. And I've done some pretty hard shit in my life, and I joke around, but it's really true. Like, you'll never get good at this. You're never good at this.
We were talking about that the other day. You showed a sweep I'd never seen before. I was like, dude, I suck at jiu-jitsu. Like 10 years in, like, wait, what is this?
Bro, like 3 months ago, Joao showed me that I was putting my elbow in the wrong place, like for a frame. I'm like, he's like, move it like this much. I'm like, I suck. Yeah, I'm a black belt, like, so you're never, the proverbial, you're never good at this, There's just levels of trained, or untrained. So it's hard. It's a inner look at yourself and your intestinal fortitude to continue to come in here every day and get fucking smashed. Yeah. So I think some people just don't have it. They won't have it. They'll never have it. And they're gonna quit. At the same time, I think you can lessen the attrition by having a really embracing culture in the gym.
Cool.
Yes, you're gonna come in here. You're gonna get fucking smashed. You're going to get crushed. You're going to get beaten. You're going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted. But you know what? Then we're going to fucking hug. And I'm going to show you how you're going to be able to fix that. And you're going to feel the love afterwards. Yes. Because I think too often, like, it's like some training environments are just cold. And then as soon as class is over, everyone leaves the mat. Like, I want this to be a hangout. People come in early. They hang out. They come in early. They get on the mat. I let them drill. They stay late. They show extra techniques. They hang out. They chill. They sit on the benches over there. We chill. We do fight nights where we put the super fights up on the TV, and brand new people that just signed up, we're like, hey, come this Friday night, and they feel that love, and then they become a part of something. So we actually have a pretty good like attrition rate here, and I think that's what it is. It's the culture we provide. Like I said, I live jiu-jitsu, and I want people to live jiu-jitsu. I think the more you live jiu-jitsu, the easier it is to stay in jiu-jitsu. Yes. I tell people, you can't dip your toe in this. Yeah. You can't dip your toe. If you say you can only show up once a week, you're never going to last. Because every week, here I come for my fucking weekly beating, right? You don't embrace
you're not learning.
That's right.
You're not getting good enough to start to enjoy it.
That's right. You're not getting the physical fitness aspect. You're not getting the becoming more efficient aspect of it. And you're not really getting to know the people intimately,
So what's your minimum timeline for that person, that brand new white belt? How many times a week and for how long till you can really judge if this is for you or not?
Man, I say 6 months for me. I know Anderson and I have talked about a lot, and he says 3 months.
Okay.
I definitely think there's a 3 month hurdle, but for me, I think I see it more at about 6 months. Right. At about 6 months, they're not as nervous coming through the door anymore. They're starting to get the confidence. You see, they walk differently. They put their kimono on differently, tie their belt differently. All of a sudden, I tell them, I'm like, boom, you just hit it, bro. You look like you belong in that gi. Yeah. You look like you belong in it. It doesn't look awkward on you anymore. And you see it in people. They wear it differently. So I say 6 months. If people give me 6 months, they're not gonna really leave until they hit blue belt, and then blue belts quit, right?
Yeah, that's the man. It's I always joke about this because at blue belt, you're like, yes, I got it, and then you realize how much harder jiu-jitsu actually is because yesterday white belt, today blue belt. Oh, you got some color. Let's go roll. You're ready for that. Yeah, exactly. That dial gets
the dial goes up.
That scares some people for sure.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
It sucked. I remember that feeling real well.
So after Thiago promoted me, like a week or so later, he brought 2 16-year-old boys into training with us, 2 16-year-old blue belts. They were on the UAE Jiu Jitsu Federation team, national team. and they fucking murdered me. 16-year-old boys murdered me. And I literally just sat there like gassed, dying, probably about to throw up. And I was like, I feel you, Thiago. I see what you did here. I get it. No, I'm not getting too cocky. Don't worry.
Yeah, ego check immediately.
For sure, man.
For those brand new people who are on the mats, regardless of what it is, white belt, blue belt, purple belt, or brown belt, walks in from a different culture, whatever, that's in your gym, when you're coaching, what is something you're seeing on the mats that you don't like, that grinds your gears, that you can let them know now if they're listening to avoid at all costs?
Yeah. I get it. It happens. It really irks me when people are late. Now, that being said, I understand like some like lunch class, some of my guys race over here for lunch class from work, and then after class they shower and change. And I'm okay with that because I'd rather them train. But there are a lot of people that I know that just aren't paying attention to the time, especially visitors, and they're late. When I'm a visitor at a gym, when I'm traveling, dude, I'm there 20 minutes early, even if I have to wait outside and the gym's not open yet. I'm there early to make sure that I am not that late guy. The other thing that really irks me, and I tell it to my students, and there's a floating scale here a little bit, but if you have a question and there's a higher rank on the mat, defer the question to them. Don't start teaching. Don't start teaching that question. If you have a question, ask the black belt. If there's no black belt, ask the brown belt. If there's no brown belt, ask the purple belt. And then when we're done drilling a certain technique, and I say, all right, time, guys, come gather in. And one crew is still on the mat, like doing it or teaching it. Guys, I said time, come on in. Like, stop. It's about time to move on. If you have a question, ask it,
For sure.
But I don't know. I say I'm pretty easygoing, but I don't think I'm actually that easygoing. I think I'm kind of a son of a bitch,
No, I think you just hold the line better than most people. And it's good because it keeps order when needed. You have an hour of an adult class, hour, and you're rolling and moving on for sure. Yeah,
you got to keep moving. You can't go down those rabbit holes 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, because then you've lost all your sparring time.
Exactly, for sure. One thing, and I know we've talked about it before on Greg's podcast, but I want to share with people as well because it changed my mind a little bit, your trial membership.
Yes.
Right? It's not a, hey, come in for free, check it out. Talk to me about how that works. Where did that come from and why you do it the way you do it?
Nothing worth a shit is free, right? Nothing worth a shit's free. Like you get the free little toy, the kids get the free little toy in the Happy Meal, like how many kids still have that toy and are playing with it? Like nothing worth a shit's free. I provide a service here. I provide a high level service and instruction. I'm one of the only academies in the area, like with a sprung floor and really nice mats, and I provide a boutique grappling experience, if you will. Yep. Our jiu-jitsu is very high level. We've got some of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners and coaches in the area, and I'm not even just speaking just us, Vida, but the Checkmat Louisiana team.
Yep.
And we all cross-train together. And first and foremost, priority number one for me are my students, right? My students that are on the mat at the time, that's priority. They've invested in me. They're paying a membership. They've bought onto it.
Yep.
And for me to let someone off the street come in and try it out for free and hamper or damage or taint the training environment because they're either new or they're coming off the street and they want to see how tough they are, I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
So I do a $25 trial class. A class $25 gets you 5 trial classes. We have loaner gis that you can borrow. You don't have to buy anything. And then if you sign up, the $25 gets credited to your first month's membership. Right? So it ends up being free if you sign up. But it weeds out the tire kickers.
Yes.
It weeds out the tough backyard brawlers that want to come in here and try to wrestle someone. And it protects my students.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, since we started, because when we first opened, we did a free week trial. People would come in, they'd do one class, and they'd never show up again. They were either too intimidated to come back, or they were too exhausted, or whatnot. Well, now they're invested in something. Oh, I spent $25, I better come in the next class. Well, they come in the second time, and people remember their name. People remember who they are. Oh, I mean, they remember me. Like, now you start feeling like part of the team.
Yeah.
So we found that the actual rate of people signing up for the trial and then signing up for membership is much higher with a paid trial.
For sure.
Because now, like, well, if I do 2 more classes and then I sign up, I get the $25 back. You know, and then by that time, now we're talking they've done it, 2-3 weeks and then a month, first month membership. Now they're already almost to that 3-month mark.
Right.
So yeah, I don't give shit for free.
Dude, I loved it because when I heard it, it was it totally changed my mind on it. Because it's the norm, right? It's totally the norm. Hey, come in, you get a free class, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, weeding out those initial people because you pay that $25 and you get 5 classes out of it. I mean, that's and also too, if you're not willing to try something with let's say 5 hours total at a gym like this for what would be a movie ticket almost. You know what I mean? It's you got to do that math in your head. It makes sense to try it out.
If you're not willing to spend $25 on the trial, you probably can't afford a membership here.
Right.
That's what it really comes down to as well. So, jiu-jitsu is not cheap. My memberships aren't cheap. I'm not crazy expensive, but I'm definitely probably more expensive than some of the other gyms in the area. But again, it goes back to
it's a quality service.
The quality of the service I provide. It's not puzzle mats on a concrete floor. It's a culture, it's a lifestyle, it's a home, it's a family.
For sure.
And when you come to me and you invest in me and you sign up and you're a good training partner and you're a good student, I invest in you back.
Absolutely.
So
let's talk about some of the fun stuff. What is your game specifically, and what do you love about jiu-jitsu techniques?
What's my game? Yeah. I don't know my game anymore. I've lost my identity. No, I'm a top player.
Okay.
Takedowns, guard passing, top smash. I've got blue belt level jiu-jitsu. I got blue belt jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I just do it at a very high level.
Yeah.
I don't play a lot of fancy stuff. I'm not a guard player. I'm not really that much, honestly, I'm not really that much of a sport jiu-jitsu player.
Right.
I got into jiu-jitsu for fighting. I got into jiu-jitsu for police work and working overseas. So that's still kind of my mindset. So I like to wrestle. I like takedowns. I like to pass. I like to stay on top. That being said, I worked a lot of my guard game through purple belt. Kind of went back to my go-to A game through brown belt because I was competing a lot at a pretty high level. Podiumed at Worlds, podiumed at Pan's first year brown belt, won a whole bunch of opens, IBJJF opens, but that was with my A game.
Yeah.
And now at black belt, I'm kind of playing both. When I go into competition, I'm doing my A game, but in the gym, honestly, I'm playing a lot more guard, playing a lot more sport guard. Training with Professor Eric Raposo has changed my game. I shouldn't say changed my game, has added to my game, just leaps and bounds. He's an amazing guard player, amazing. Yeah. One of the highest level, he was number 1 in his division IBJJF last year.
Yeah.
That speaks for itself.
His jiu-jitsu is sick.
So he's got me playing a lot more lasso and spider and playing a lot more guard. So for me, that's kind of where I'm at. I am a big half guard player. If I'm playing bottom, I'm playing half guard. I play a lot of coyote half guard.
Yep.
Or some guys call it Meteor half guard, where you're twisting the knee and, tweaking dudes' knees. So I play a lot of bottom. I play a lot of bottom half guard. I do like half guard. And I don't know, my favorite part about jiu-jitsu is really just being around it. There are days, I'm about to be 44. I've been doing this a long time. I'm pretty beat up. And I'm in here. By Wednesday, I've usually trained 9 sessions already by Wednesday. So if you try to come in here and grind and go hard every class, you're gonna get burnt out. And I did that for a couple of years, and I was getting burnt out. So I come in and I do what I want to do. If I want to grind hard with certain training partners, I'll go. If I want to just play lazy guard and experiment with stuff, I'll go. If I don't want to roll at all and don't touch me, I just coach. So that's for me. I'm done putting the pressure on. I'm done putting the pressure on myself to get better.
Yes.
Because I know that every time I'm on the mat, I'm getting better. you know?
Yeah.
And like, I still love jiu-jitsu. I'm still a student of the art. So I'm watching videos and I'm learning new stuff. And, you know, I'm learning stuff from you and learning stuff from Zach and Eric and all that stuff. So I'm still the student as well, but just not like, I got to get better. I got to get better.
You're playing a different role right now.
I'm playing a different role. It's going to happen, you know. You're going to get better.
Absolutely. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit, and for those who know you or don't, you've had a career in law enforcement. You're also still part of it at this moment, and you're an advocate, for Adopt a Cop.
Yes.
And you do a lot of the training for the sheriff's department down here in this area.
Yeah.
What do you think is the bare minimum that a law enforcement officer needs capability-wise for jiu-jitsu? What's the bare minimum?
I think the bare minimum for a law enforcement officer is to be in a grappling academy of some sort, depending on where they live. If there's jiu-jitsu, cool, better. If they live out in the middle of nowhere, find a high school wrestling academy 3 days a week.
3 days a week.
Forever. Because that's the only way you're going to get good at anything is time and pressure. And you know the deal. You train for 2 years, you get your blue belt. Now you stop training. In a year, you're not a blue belt anymore.
No.
You know, you're not a blue belt anymore. And as a law enforcement officer, you have sworn an oath and taken a career that goes beyond you and beyond a paycheck. So, I think physical fitness standards for law enforcement is crucial. And I think grappling standards for law enforcement is crucial. And my bare minimum is you train 3 days a week as part of your life, period. You know, I don't think that's a lot to ask. Do you go to the gym 3 days a week? Cool. Well, then come here. You know, go to a grappling gym, grappling academy instead 3 days a week. You're going to get real world fitness, fighting fitness, and you're going to gain a skill set. And it just changes everything. You know, like, I don't know. It pisses me off. You know, cops will go and, you know, sit and watch football on the weekend and drink a fucking 12-pack of beer, but they won't invest in their skill set and their fitness. So
for sure. More broad spectrum. What do you think the minimum capable standard and what should be put into that group for an American man? Fitness, capabilities, driving standards. I mean, what if you could make minimum standards maybe taught through high school and into college? What would that look like?
Damn, bro.
Obviously, jiu-jitsu is one of them.
Yeah, you know, I joke around, but I really believe it. Like, I think jiu-jitsu could, you know, make world peace.
Yeah.
You know, like,
sure.
I use the UAE as a test subject, as a study case. The UAE exploded from like a desert Bedouin wasteland to what it is today, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and then, you know, the largest skyscrapers in the world and all this stuff. Very, very, very wealthy. And what happened is the Emirati youth didn't have to do anything anymore. They were getting money royalties from oil and everything, and they grew up super, super wealthy. They never had to work a job. And the Emirati youth that then grew up just had zero work ethic, zero discipline, were out of shape, overweight, not a good contributor of society.
Yeah.
And one of the sheikhs recognized it in the early 90s and said, we need to implement this into our culture, and made jiu-jitsu part of the physical education program in public schools.
Oh, wow.
So PE in public school in the United Arab Emirates is jiu-jitsu.
Damn.
Yes. Well, what they started to notice, and what you notice now, and you can see it when you're there. I lived there for 4 years. Is you can see it in the you know, the stages of life and the ages of people, is that the youth that train jiu-jitsu through elementary school, middle school, high school are actually like good people, hard workers, maintain a level of fitness, have more discipline in their daily life. It's actually like changed the country around.
Wow.
And I think that could happen here. You know, kids spend time, they just sit on their tablets all day long, and they don't know how to converse with other people. They don't know how to talk to adults. They don't know how to be contributing members of whatever's going on. And, you know, I'll use my kids. You know my kids well, and I'll use my kids as an example. But you put my kids around a bunch of other kids. I get my view gets tainted because I only hang out with people that I know through here, you know? So it's like we're all jiu-jitsu people hanging out, and the kids are jiu-jitsu kids, and they're all getting along, and no one's bullying anyone, no one's being a crybaby or a sore loser. But like the first year we ran summer camp here, half the kids were jiu-jitsu kids, the other half of the kids came from who knows where. Bro, you want to see the difference. I could spend an hour with them. You could pick them out. You know, sore losers, horrible winners, couldn't share, you know, like just so. You know, I don't know if I'd say your question, I think, is unattainable.
For sure.
But I obviously, you know me, and I have a big problem with men not being men anymore. And the auspice of ask any man, right? Ask any man. They know how to. They're good drivers. Just ask them. They'll tell you I'm a good driver. They're good shooters. Just ask them. They'll tell you they're good shooters. They're good fighters. Just ask them. They'll tell you they're good fighters, and they really know how to please a woman. Just ask them. Those are the 4 things. Ask any man. There's the 4 things every man's good at, right? Well, then I counter that with, well, cool. What driving school did you go to? Where did you study to learn how to drive? Well, I didn't. I'm just good. Okay, no, you suck. You know, what kind of training do you have with firearms? What kind of studying and training and learning have you done? Oh, none. I just grew up, you know, shooting can. Okay, you suck. Fighting, what training? Pleasing a woman, what kind of studying and training have you done, you know? No, so basically the long story is you suck at all those things. You're just fucking delusional. Like, guess what? We can prove it. Let's get on the mats. You know, like let's get on. The guy the other night, hey, the best thing about jiu-jitsu is we can test this right now.
Oh yeah, no, those are great categories. I think if you can strive to be good in all 4 of those, you're doing your job as a man.
That's
in this
it.
country.
That's how I try to live my life, man. You know,
for sure. So. We met through the Guns and Geese program.
We were destined.
Yes, destined. This is only my 3rd time down here, and we're homies now. Where did the idea come from? How did it come to fruition? And what is your goal with that program?
So Guns and Geese was kind of, it was a model that I don't want to say I've had in my head I kind of was doing the model for a while. I ran a shooting company for years with a business partner, and we would do shooting classes for civilians, open enrollment shooting classes, you know, defensive combative pistol, carbine, stuff like that. And then I started to do like kind of hybrid classes where I would bring mats out to the range and I would just show people clench work and head fighting and underhooks and pummeling. And then we would turn it into a drill. And obviously safety was a big thing, but like we would turn it into a drill where with the instructor, they'd pummel or head fight for 30 seconds. And then the instructor would separate, turn them down range. They'd have to load, make ready, and then shoot a course of fire. Okay. So it was something that I'd kind of, you know, in a way, been doing it for a little while. While working for the government, I got to go to a bunch of combative defensive tactics courses that were legitimately good, run by black belts. I got to go to SOCP, which is a Special Operations Combatives program, and go get their level 1 or level 2 certification. And it was just kind of morphing all that. So fast forward, meeting Greg and meeting Joao, becoming friends with them. It morphed into, what if we make it like an immersion camp? Not just a one-day training thing. Because you know my spiel, like in a 1-day, 2-day, or even 3-day training camp, you don't actually build any capability. Right. So we were merely using the shooting and the jiu-jitsu as a catalyst to get people together, inspire them, ignite some spark, teach them more really about life and living and the discipline of living if you want to walk this path. Yep. And I finally called Greg up one day and said, hey, I've mapped it out. Here's how it is. We're fucking doing this. How are these dates? Pick some dates. And he's like, oh shit, damn, we're really doing this. And I said, fuck yeah, we're doing it. And here we are. Now that's it, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Off to the races.
Well, and also sometimes I think about how lucky was it that Greg and Joao, I mean, you were already part of the same checkmate team.
Bro.
Right? Like that's one of those universe things.
The universe,
right?
Dude. Well, the thing is, too, like Greg Anderson and I traveled the same circles for years and never met. Like in the same area of operations in Iraq at the same time, same years, and never met. Damn. And what we learned when we finally met is we all had the same friends. that bumped from team to team to team, you know? And I was like, oh shit, we're homies already. Like, we just never knew. How did we never meet?
Yeah.
But so that was like right away. And then, I was already checkmate. They were checkmate. It was just like, the universe is speaking to us for sure.
No, man, in having taken the course, immediately I was like, oh shit, this is something special. Because I had done some other ones previously, and you see, hey, the high level of safety of firearm instruction, which was by far maybe one of the most important aspects of the course to feel safe, especially around other people who I'm fairly comfortable with firearms going into it. And I learned a ton, but for day one, people can go to it and feel really safe being around firearms. And people who, you're not worried about getting flagged there. The cadre is great. The way you give the safety briefing is amazing. And then on the jiu-jitsu side, seeing Joao teach a class for the first time, I was like, oh shit, that's how you teach jiu-jitsu? You see him take a room of 30 new people, most everyone wearing a brand new white belt, and he had them shrimping perfectly down the mats. And I was like, how the fuck did he just do that? I did, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so you see the high level of what it is. And now, the Facebook alumni page, you guys are 6 classes in? 5 or 6 classes in?
I think November 006, I think.
Okay.
I should know this.
Yeah. So about 5 or 6 classes done. And you see the transformation of some people who they've done a class and 3 months later have lost 30 pounds. They're trained jiu-jitsu 3-4 times a week.
So we're trying to sell the lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah, no. So it's super cool to have been a part of it and continue to see people go through that stage of progression, because it's made for everyone, right? Like, hey, I've been training a long time, but then I come down here, I'm like, oh, there's details and aspects and culture that you guys are providing as a service.
That's what's really cool about it. We've had everyone from black belts to day one white belts attend for the jiu-jitsu, and we've had everyone from people who've never held a gun to SWAT cops and special operations guys attend, and everyone gets something out of it. Greg Anderson talks about it more. I try to be somewhat humble with it, but I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, but I'm really a black belt in this shooting stuff. That's my specialty. That's where I've cut my teeth for 20 years, and I consider myself a very, very high level, knowledgeable and real world experienced shooter. I'm not the biggest, baddest gunfighter out there. There's been dudes in a lot more gunfights than I have, but I've been in a few, and I've shot competitively for a little while, and I'm still a student of the art. I'm still a student of warfare and of combat.
Sure.
I still, if my phone beeps right now, we're turning this off, and I'm going and getting my police car, and I'm going to a barricaded gunman or a hostage rescue right now. Yeah. So I've got to stay sharp. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. Again, floating your boat a little bit. It's so cool to see from the outside, because it's like, there's people you aspire to, and I think for your students here and people who may watch this, it's like there is an attainable capability that you can have, which I think you put out in the world really well, and do a good job of sharing it with people, because there's great black belts in jiu-jitsu out there who are fucking assholes and don't know how to teach.
Yep.
But then there's yourself, Joao, and Greg, who have that capability but can share it properly with the world.
Just trying my best, bro.
Yeah. You're doing great.
I love doing this, and I think I think my passion, I know my passion goes out to my students, so there's no doubt, whether they like me or not, there's no doubt that I care. Yep. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. So. Do you remember the first time, or maybe just one of the times, that you noticed when you used your jiu-jitsu out on patrol or in the streets against someone who didn't know, and you're like, oh shit, this works? Because we were talking about hey, if I've had maybe a moment like that, and hopefully we'll have more in the future. Yeah. Do you remember that moment for you?
I can't remember the light bulb moment. Yeah. There are specific moments throughout my career that I've used jiu-jitsu real world that I'm like, oh shit, that was easy. Maybe you're a little nervous too going into it, I gotta fight this guy, and then you're like, oh wait, that was fucking easy. And we did the stop and frisk stuff on the wall the other day. Yeah. I remember specifically, I've been doing that for years and it still isn't taught, but I drove a Crown Vic for a long time when I was back in the day when we were driving Crown Vics, and I put someone on the car, and I did it differently than everybody else, because I knew I had a fundamental of grappling. I understood, and literally when dudes would get frisky or froggy, want to turn and fight or want to turn and run, I literally just side foot sweep them, dunk, and put them in handcuffs. And people were like, how'd you just do that? Well, I'm taking their base away. I'm taking their balance away. It was super easy. Stuff I've had to fight a lot of dudes on the street.
So you're saying it works?
It works. Believe it or not, it works.
It really is a superpower.
Yeah, believe it or not, it works. Yeah, you know, like I got into a scrap. I was at a work event. I was not working, but I was at a work event, and two guys that were drunk were getting a little froggy with the girls, and I had to have a word with them, and then they both wanted to fight me, and I saw it, and I literally just like, I was had a couple drinks. I wasn't like drinking. I was just being social, and I passed my drink off to Casey, and I said, hold this, and I went over, and I shoved one of the dudes over like a little half wall, boom, and then I arm dragged the other dude and put him in a rear naked and choked him out, and then dragged him out, and I was like, and then the bouncers came, and you know, I told them what was going on and who I was, and they're like, all right, cool, and I was like, oh, that was easy, and I walked back over, and she handed me my drink back. She's like, you feel better now? I was like, yep, you know, like,
you can continue,
you know,
that.
But that's like you said, that's like, you know, I mean, I don't really consider myself a badass. I'm friends with badasses, you know, but like, you put your hands on someone that has no training, it's like they're children.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I love asking that question because people who've been training for 12 plus years, who have black belts, eventually have had that experience, or you know, previously have had that experience. And one thing, again, I want to give you credit, but also your law enforcement guys who show up and train all the time. I was talking with Dave, and I was like, hey, have you had to use your jiu-jitsu, or what's the biggest thing that you've noticed since you started training? Because he's a blue belt now, so it's a couple years in at least. And I was like, so are there those moments that you've had, light bulb moments on the street? And he told me, he said, you know, yeah, I've had to use it when you cut people, you're touching people all the time, and yeah, it helps. But the biggest thing he noticed was, you know, he's on a lawn standing next to, you know, two guys who aren't training, two of his LEO guys, and they're talking this big dude who's drunk and yelling. And he's calm. Yeah. His other guys are freaking out. Hey, calm down. He's like, hey, man, you know. So he noticed your sense of confidence has gone down, or excuse me, has elevated, so that you're able to handle the situation more appropriately.
Oh, massively. Yeah. You know, like just knowing how to talk to people. I tell cops, as a cop, you got to be good at two things: talking to people and fighting. The better you know how to talk to people, the less you have to fight. The better you are at fighting, the better you are at talking to people, you know? So it's like a chicken and egg thing, you know? Like, if you're super confident, you don't need to posture. You can just be cool and chill because you're confident, and then they feed off that. And, like, I don't like telling war stories per se, and this one isn't even that cool, but it's cool because no one got hurt. I show up as a responding officer. There's already officers there, and they've all got their guns drawn, and they're yelling at this dude. And this dude's got shorts on, no shirt, and he's got a holster clipped to his shorts that's empty. An empty holster, nothing in his hands. And he's walking back and forth, and he's angry, and they're all yelling at him, and he's yelling at them, and kill me, y'all gonna have to kill me. And I'm looking around like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm like, hey, dude, hold on, chill, man, what's going on? I'm like, everyone fucking holster your guns. He doesn't even have a weapon, like, holster your guns, stop yelling. Everyone be quiet, go away. Literally, like, I'm like, dude, what's the deal? And he had, I don't remember specifically, this was years ago, but he had violated the law. He was going to jail. That's why they were there. He was going to jail regardless. And I was like, dude, here's the deal, bro. Like, you got to take the ride with me. I mean, you can go with me. You don't have to go with them. Like, I'll drive you, but you got to take the ride. You did this, and you got to go to jail. We can be cool and treat each other with respect like men. You're a man, I'm a man, dude. I'm not going to motherfuck you. I'm not going to call you names. Like, it is what it is. And we can be cool with each other. We can talk about it in the car ride there, like, but you got to go. You got to take the ride. Or we can fucking get down and we can fight. And I'm going to come over there. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to smash you on your head on the driveway. And then we're probably going to go to the hospital first to stitch you up. I said, I don't want to do that, bro. Like, and like I said, I was young. I was about 20 pounds heavier than Beefy Greg, bro. My traps touched my ears, you know, I was Beefy Greg. And I was like, I don't want to do that, bro. I don't want to fight you. I don't like... Yeah. You know, you're going to mess up my uniform, bro. You look tough, dude. You're going to mess up, you know. And then he started laughing. Yeah. And he's like, damn, no fucking cops ever talked to me like that. I'm like, dude, you and me are the same, bro, basically. Like, but you violated the law, and I got to enforce the law. Yep. Like, it is what it is. It's not personal.
For sure.
And he literally, like, walked over, turned around. I put him in cuffs, super chill. We walked, and, like, we had good conversations in the car ride there, you know?
For sure.
So just stuff like that. No one needed to get hurt. No one had to fight. No one had to lose their life or anything. Like, hopefully he leaves that interaction with maybe a better view of cops. But the other, they would have tased him or shot him or something. Yeah. You know, like, for no reason, because of their lack of training and preparedness.
Right. Man, I love one thing you just said that actually really just hit me is, yes, we learn jiu-jitsu here, but I think even sometimes, because I've been doing my entire 20s. So for me, it's kind of natural. But being able to talk to people, well, on the mats, you also learn how to talk to people. The amount of time you spend interacting with a different person, a different training partner every day. And when you're talking to people wrong in the jiu-jitsu mat, you get checked. So that's one of the biggest things that, hey, you learn to talk to people here on top of learning how to defend yourself. So that's a great way to phrase that. I love that.
For sure, man. So,
are we able to talk about what's next? What's coming up down the pipeline?
What's coming up down the pipe? Yeah, fuck it, dude. I'm an open book.
Cool.
What's next? What's next for me? What's next for the academy?
For the academy.
What's next for the academy? Yeah. So, so the next step for me, and I've kind of had I don't want to say real hard. I've had loose goals and timelines for how many students I wanted at the 6-month mark, and how many students I wanted at the year mark, and we just made 4 years, and I've hit my 200 student goal. The next step that I was at, which was a 5-year goal, was to be a property owner, to own commercial property. Fingers crossed, because we still have 30 days. Fingers crossed. There's still shit that could happen to make it not happen, but yeah, we're under contract on a building, our own building, where I'm going to be the owner of commercial property. That'll be the new home of Vida. It's an awesome location. It's right near where our current location is, so I'm not screwing over any of my students, because that was big for me. That was important when we were looking to move. I didn't want to move too far away, because I don't want to lose any of my current students due to a geographical change. So it's real close. It's going to be beautiful. I'll be able to build it out from scratch the way I want it. So it's going to look exactly like I want it. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to look like a fucking med spa. Now then I'll be paying myself rent,
Yes,
so hopefully that's the next evolution, not just for Vida, but for me as a businessman. And trying to enhance my, me being able to kind of provide for my family, because jiu-jitsu does not pay the most. In case anyone was wondering, don't go into jiu-jitsu if you want to be wealthy. So that's what's next.
So excited for you.
Guns and Gis is still moving forward. Now we're moving on to going to be posting our classes for 2023. We've entered into a partnership and sponsor with Vortex Optics. Cool. And those guys are awesome. So we're changing the plan a little bit for Guns and Gis. It's going to be a much more user-friendly and all-inclusive program.
Cool.
To where you can literally pack a bag with your clothes, ship your ammo to us, or buy your ammo here, and I pick it up and show up. And everything you need is provided. Gun, red dot on the gun, holsters, gun belts, gis, you name it. You just show up.
Cool.
So I think that'll be cool for people that are really new into it. I think that'll be cool for guys who are shooters but aren't shooting red dots yet on pistols, because that is the way. Yes. Red dots on pistols is the way. And you'll show up and we'll have brand new Glock 19s and 17s for everybody, mounted with Vortex RDS's red dot sights on it, and that's what they get to shoot for the weekend. So that's cool. And then we need the Guns and Gis corporate airplane that I can fly. Greg Joao.
That'll happen. I'm not worried about that.
So I should have already been a pilot at the filming of this, but there was a little problem with some miscalculation of hours, so I needed a few more hours.
You're too good at flying. They weren't ready for that.
Told you, I'm a great pilot as long as it's in that airplane, in and out of that airport in clear weather. I'm an awesome pilot.
For sure. Again, this is the second time I've been down here where I've lived the life of Lapin for a week or two consistently. But is there anything outside of jiu-jitsu that you enjoy, that you do, that's good for the soul?
Oh, man. Eat red meat. Work out, spend time with the family, invest in your family, your kids, your spouse. If I said I had a hobby that sometimes that keeps me grounded, it's going off into the woods, way, way, way off the grid in my truck. You've seen my truck, and I've got it all built out to go off for weeks at a time in it, and go off-roading and get out to where, unless you have another truck built out like that, you're not getting there, So every once in a while, if I get in my own head, I'm like, look, I got to go on a vision quest for a couple of days, and I'll go drive off into the woods for a couple of days, sit by a campfire at night by myself, cook a steak on my cast iron skillet, But yeah, that's cool. But honestly, like being in here makes me happy.
Cool.
Being in here, training with my teammates, with my students, training with my family, rolling with Jackson.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what makes me happy. That's what keeps me grounded.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, you're an inspiration to myself, my brother. I love you. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk jiu-jitsu with me. We got some training to get to here shortly.
Absolutely. Class is starting. Class is
brother.
starting. The kiddos.
Oh,
Let's see. Kiddos are in a few minutes, and
Yeah.
then ladies, then adults.
It's going to be a good time, brother.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Woos, brother.
Appreciate you.
Woos.
Guys, if you've made it this far along, finished the interview, I just want to thank you again for supporting me along this journey, and hopefully you got something awesome out of that interview. I really enjoy doing these, learning so much about life, jiu-jitsu, and everyone has such a unique and interesting perspective. So I hope you got something out of that that you can take with you. And one last reminder, for 10% off on any Jocko Fuel products or Origin USA products, go to jockofuel.com or originusa.com. Support yourself by getting some awesome products, supplements, protein shakes, greens, all that good stuff. It helps support me along this journey, and again, supports yourself and an American-made company. So yeah, jockofuel.com. Check it out, guys. Thank you very much.